Chapter 1. Pokrovsk, the breakthrough that decides the battlefield. Preface. On August 13, 2025, the war in eastern Ukraine entered an unprecedentedly fierce phase. The focal point, Pokrovsk, one of Ukraine's key defense clusters in Donetsk Oblast. Here, the Russian army launched a series of attacks with alarming speed and depth, pushing Ukrainian forces into the most dangerous position since the conflict broke out. Loss ratio and general situation. President Volodymyr Zelensky admits, every day Russia loses nearly 1,000 soldiers, 3 times the number of Ukraine. But on the battlefield, especially in Donetsk, the advantage of terrain and offensive power is tilting towards Moscow. Russia has captured 6 of 18 key points in Sumy, advanced deep into Luhansk, and maintained constant pressure in Zaporizhia. Pokrovsk drill. According to military summary, on the night of August 11th, the Ukrainian defense line north of Pokrovsk was breached. Russia not only advanced more than 16 kilometers towards the villages of Zoloty Kolidiez and Dobropolia, but also cut off the TO514 line, the lifeline connecting Dobropoli with Kramatorsk. Russian special reconnaissance teams approached Hersne, opening the risk of encircling the entire Pokrovsk-Mirograd cluster. Deep State and the Ukrainian General Staff confirmed that on August 12th alone, there were 133 clashes, of which 35 took place around Pokrovsk. Russia used more than 1,500 suicide UAVs, 3,600 artillery shells, 130 guided bombs, extremely high firepower density. Dobropolie, the broken link. The Russian 51st Guards Army penetrated 10 to 18 kilometers into the eastern line of Dobropolie. The objective was clear: to control the strategic crossroads at Petrovka-Pervia and Alexandrova, to cut off supplies to the Ukrainian defenses at Dobropolie, Belozerskoye, and Konstantinova. This was a logistical chokehold. Both Slavyansk and Kramatorsk could be paralyzed without being directly surrounded. Ukrainian response. The Kyiv command sent the 1st Special Forces Corps to the rescue, but these units had been there since winter and could not stop the attack. War correspondent Murat Harulin described, the Russians bypassed the fortified defenses, attacked the flanks, cut the Dobropoli-Druzhkovka supply line and the T-0514 line, and surrounded the villages of Rubishnoy, Belisitkovy, and Sofievka. The encirclement tightens. AMK mapping sources say Russia has taken Dorojny, Ivanivka, Novoshakovye, the Krasnolimskaya mine, Novoekonomichne, parts of Rodinsky, Levtovichi, and Udachny. The eastern and northern directions of Pokrovsk are closing in. Ukraine's only escape route, the E50 highway to Pavlograd, is also under threat. Chapter end. Pokrovsk is turning into a fire pocket. If the encirclement closes, Ukraine will lose not only a defensive cluster, but also the strategic gateway to Kramatorsk. Russia has closed in from many directions, breaking every logistical link. This situation signals that Chapter 2 will be a life-and-death moment in Pokrovsk, where each Ukrainian convoy may be forced to retreat under fire. Chapter 2. The bloody retreat from Pokrovsk. Introduction. After the Russian breakthrough penetrated deep into the Pokrovsk defense line, the Ukrainian General Staff was faced with a dire choice: either to hold out to the end and be completely surrounded, or to organize a tactical retreat through the only corridor, the E50 highway to Pavlograd. But both options were bloody. The reality on the battlefield. According to AMK mapping, the Russian attacks quickly closed the arc north and east of Pokrovsk. The villages of Dorojny, Ivanivka, Novoekonomichne, Rodinsky, Leontovichi were captured by the enemy. Every time Ukraine tried to open the way, Russian artillery immediately opened fire to block it. War correspondent Murat Harulin said supply routes into Pokrovsk were cut in sections. The reinforcement convoy had just set off when it was attacked by Lancet suicide drones or FAB-500 glide bombs. Every meter of road became a dead zone under the observation of Russian reconnaissance UAVs. Crushing firepower. In just 24 hours, more than 3,600 artillery shells and 130 guided bombs were dropped on the area. FPV UAVs crashed straight into armored vehicles, forcing many Ukrainian units to abandon their vehicles and retreat west. An unnamed officer admitted, "We retreated not because we lacked fighting spirit, but because there were no safe routes for supplies or escape." The only route of withdrawal, the E50 highway to Pavlograd.
The E-50 highway from Pokrovsk to Pavlograd was the lifeline to save the troops, but Russia closed in from two directions, Krasnogorivka and Osheretine, cutting off the road with long-range artillery and glide bomb attacks. Roads were badly damaged, many vehicles were burned to the frame. Ukraine had to split the convoy into small groups, move at night, and constantly change routes to avoid suicide drowns. The cost of every kilometer. According to military summary, retreats under fire often cost twice as much as defenses. The Ukrainian army lost dozens of armored vehicles, hundreds of soldiers were wounded or missing in just 2 days. It was almost impossible to keep the task force intact, as they had to cover the retreating force while blocking the Russian pursuit. Soldier psychology. Some Ukrainian soldiers described the feeling that Pokrovsk was closing in like a steel trap. With each passing hour, the encirclement became tighter. Even the positions that could still be held were isolated, communicating only by radio, unable to resupply ammunition and food. Chapter end. As the last convoys began to leave Pokrovsk, Russian artillery was close enough to fire directly at the lines of retreat. The loud explosions signaled that Chapter 3 would be the end of the Battle of Pokrovsk, not just the loss of a strategic point, but a turning point that would change the entire course of the Donetsk battlefield in the coming months. Chapter 3. The Closed Encirclement and Strategic Consequences. Introduction. As the last Ukrainian convoy left Pokrovsk, the horizon was lit up by Grad rockets. The Russian encirclement was complete, with no escape route for the remaining units. This was not just a tactical defeat, but a strategic shock that would reshape the entire Donetsk front in the coming months. The final encirclement. Russian forces were encircling the city in a 3-layered encirclement. The outermost layer was long-range artillery, which fired at all approaches. The second layer was reconnaissance and suicide UAVs, which tracked each group of moving soldiers. The innermost layer was mechanized infantry, which pressed in on the remaining defenses. The Ukrainian units trapped in the city center were completely cut off from supplies. With no way out, they had to fight a half-hearted battle, keeping their lives together while waiting for the order to surrender or rescue, an order that never came. Heavy losses. According to data from AMK Mapping and Military Summary, the battle for Pokrovsk alone cost Ukraine more than 2,000 soldiers, 70 armored vehicles, and dozens of ammunition and fuel depots. But more importantly, the loss of Pokrovsk meant the loss of a major logistics support for Ukraine, which in turn led to the risk of a chain reaction in the entire western Donetsk region. Political reaction. In Kyiv, the general staff acknowledged the situation, but emphasized that it was a tactical retreat to preserve forces. However, Western military experts saw this as a serious defeat, allowing Russia to open the way to Pavlograd and deeper into Dnipropetrovsk. Strategic significance. Pokrovsk is more than just a city. It's an important traffic junction connecting Donetsk with the western provinces of Ukraine. When Russia controls this place, they not only advance further west, but also expand their area of influence, creating a direct threat to the transportation routes of weapons and aid from Poland and NATO countries. Future forecast. If Ukraine cannot establish a new, strong enough defense line in Pavlograd, the risk of Russia attacking deep into central Ukraine is entirely possible. In the context of Ukraine's increasingly exhausted air defense forces, Russia's long-range firepower can hit logistics centers, causing both military and moral pressure. Summary of all 3 chapters. Chapter 1. Russia launches an offensive campaign on Pokrovsk, breaking through the defense line with artillery and UAVs, putting Ukraine in a passive position. Chapter 2. Ukraine tries to retreat via the E-50 highway but pays a heavy price. Many units suffer heavy losses. Chapter 3. The encirclement closes, Pokrovsk falls, Russia gains a major strategic advantage in Donetsk. Call to action. If you want to continue to follow the analysis of the Ukrainian battlefield, the insights into history and war, subscribe to the History and War channel, hit the notification bell, and share this video so that more people can understand what is happening. This is not just a story about war, but also a vivid history lesson right before our eyes.